Welcome to the 2024 overview of Venus moving through the sky as she does a very beautiful and powerful cazimi in the month of June, as well as she doesn't even go retrograde. We're going to talk about how this amazing, particularly positive Venus in the heart of the sun will look in 2024 for you based on your sun, moon, and rising sign. And before we do that, we're also going to talk about the general deep dive into what a Venus star point or cazimi is. In this case, it's happening in Gemini, 14 degrees of that sign. It's going to really activate the Gemini part of your sky in 2024. We're bringing in a Venus expert astrologer, Louise Edington of Cosmic Owl Astrology, to help us navigate the 2024 Venus story. So we're going to welcome her into our Zoom room right now. Hey, Louise, welcome so much to our show today where we're talking about 2024 Venus and especially that Venus star point in Gemini in June. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm always happy to be here, my friend. It's the only
Yeah,
time we see each other face to face. So
it is. I totally owe Louise the total credit for pushing me into a professional career in astrology by one line that she said one time. So thank you for that.
very
And
welcome.
the other thing I want to say is I am a junkie for her Substack articles that I subscribe to. So there's few astrologers that I actually follow as the astrologer's astrologer. And when it comes to really understanding the sky on the fly, like what's really going on for the world, her Substack is really an amazing subscription. Tell me, you just started that and it's doing really well. What brought you to Substack and give us more about that?
Yeah, well, I was writing Facebook posts every day on Facebook page, and then I saw a couple of people were doing Substack, so I explored it, and I thought, why am I just putting this out on this public platform for free every day, when I can put it on a blogging platform? I still offer the daily posts for free, but there's an optional subscription, and for the subscription, people get the blogging of my book. There's another chapter about to come out on series. But I blog daily because it's kind of like a morning meditation for me almost. So I stay really in tune with all the cycles, what's waning, what's waxing, how they're speaking to each other. And I just want people to tune in to that as well,
Mhm.
so that they can work with the energies. So that's purely it.
Yeah. So I chose the subscription option. I'm really enjoying all of it. And plus you're a fabulous writer. If anything I can say, reading astrology by a person who can write is also amazing as well. And Louise, by the way, everybody is the author of two best-selling astrology books as well. The complete, you have to remind me the names. I have the complete one. What are they called again?
The best-selling one, the top one, is The Complete Guide to Astrology. It's got the black and white cover. Then I did Modern Astrology. That was my first. I also did one that had tarot as well included in it. So there's three out there in the world. The
Yeah.
Complete Guide is kind of the main one though.
Okay,
So
wonderful. Yeah, that's the one. I believe it's on my bookshelf back home. All right, so let's get talking about Venus this year. I mean, I am really jazzed that she's going direct all year, and we don't have to look for like ex-lovers coming out of the woodwork. Any other thoughts about the fact she maintains direct motion in 2024?
well, I'm really excited about it because Venus represents so much. If anybody's ever, listened to me talk about Venus, I work with her mainly in the retrograde cycle. I do a class every Venus retrograde, but the direct years, like the direct motion, is one of real kind of forward motion in creativity and relationships. Also, like social mores. I've the more I work with Venus, the more I see how she is showing up in the collective as well. So we might talk a little bit about that. And 2024 ends with an amazing conjunction on my husband's birthday, actually, December the 7th, of Venus, Pluto, and Ceres, because the more I work with Venus, the more I see kind of the deeper side of Venus, which is really about desire, earthly desires, and both sexual and like materially and so on. And that's going to be a powerful conjunction on December the 7th next year.
With the asteroid series, which makes it a lot more rich than just a Venus-Pluto conjunction, which we get to experience quite often. So that's exciting.
You know where it is as well? Zero Aquarius. So
Oh, that very hot spot in the sky. Yeah. So we had that conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn at zero Aquarius back in December of 2020, kind of ushering in the elemental, for sure, the final, like we're in an, elemental air cycle with regarding those two grand planets coming together, the great conjunction. And there's so much that's happened at that 0 degrees of Aquarius. It's ridiculous. It really is. There was another event there with was it Saturn Mars?
there was a Venus-Mars conjunction there too. That I did a whole slide of them on a 2024 preview I did. There's been so many there.
Yeah.
And of course this Venus Pluto Ceres conjunction is happening after Pluto, just after Pluto finally moves into Aquarius for the next 20 odd years. So
Yeah. I know he's been flirting with that 0 degrees, and now you're right. He pushes mid-November, November 19th, out of the last gasp in Capricorn, direct motion into Aquarius, and that does seem like a very intense energy to have those two come together. Oh, a three come together. I'm really excited as an Aquarius rising. So every time you talk about Pluto Venus, you think about fatal attraction, toxic love, but you can also go power of love, higher love, moving love into a deeper place as well.
yeah. And Venus, the Venus cycle, which we're going to talk about here a little bit with the Venus star point, is very aligned with the Pluto cycle. The Pluto cycle is 248 years, and the greater Venus cycle is 251 years. So, they're kind of really starting to come together, to work together to bring this great transformation in how we live on the earth, I think, personally. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had been talking earlier by messenger about, the idea of this Venus star point in the sign of Gemini that's happening around June the 3rd, 4th, depends on where you live, I think. And that 14-degree star point is the first star point we'll have had in our lifetimes, where we also have Pluto in a whole sign trine from Aquarius. So it has a whole new flavor than the ones that we've had in the preceding years.
It sure does. And that's actually going to build over the next few years, because there's a Venus star point in Gemini every 4 years. This one will be with Venus moving direct, as you mentioned. Then we'll have one 4 years later, 2028, a retrograde Venus star point. And that one is going to be at 11 Gemini. And then in 2032, we have another one with Venus direct. But those two, Pluto's even closer. So it's not just a trine by sign, they're actually even closer by degrees. So,
Mhm.
we've got some big transformation coming, as if we didn't.
So I'm really curious then in your view of that, because with Pluto in Aquarius, which can be meaningful to do with, the people or societal norms or the collective or, humanity at large, and Venus, which you've already brought us to awareness that they're synodic, their cycles of the greater Venus cycle of 251 years and the Pluto of 248 give them a kind of archetypal intimacy. What do you feel about this energy of those two doing this in our lifetime? What would you imagine collectively we're going to receive from Venus star points in Gemini, the sign of, the twins and ideas and the mind and Aquarian air on air? Any thoughts?
Oh, well, there's a lot of thoughts, but
Yeah.
we can look back for some idea of what might come to the late 1800s and things when they were at a similar point back then. And it's really kind of a new age of enlightenment, but also a revolutionary time. I think there's probably going to be, new alliances, probably new borders. I can't tell exactly how it's going to fall out in the end, but we can kind of see all of this, coming. I believe Z just told Biden that he was going to take back Taiwan, for example. There's all that kind of jostling for
Ah.
position in the world, but even at a personal level, I think at that period was a time of great new inventions, new art, new social contracts, if you like, as well. So all of that's going to come as well, I think.
Well, certainly new art now that AI stepped into the mix, and Pluto in
Mhm.
Aquarius really last year between the third week of March and June 11th really brought a lot of AI chatter into the collective, even concern. You know, it was really the time when it was hitting the news really big time, Chat GPT and all of that. And now we're just seeing so much happening when it comes to the world of art and the collaboration of artists with AI.
Definitely, yeah. So it's going to be all of that, but also, things like robotics and transhumanism. And I'm not promoting it before
Mhm.
anybody gets upset. You know, I don't. It's just what I see coming. So talk of brain implants, which could be really good for some people, could enable the blind to see and things like that. But
Yeah, yeah. And with Venus, she brings things together. Like Mars separates, she joins. And so new alliances, as you already mentioned, or new economic alliances, new geopolitical groups that'll be forming around the world as new boundaries and borders are drawn. And so we can see that that is definitely going to be something that would literally look like that revolutionary impulse anyway that Pluto can display in Aquarius. But with that Venus flowing from the Gemini corridor, Gemini, the brothers, right? The twins, right? One mortal, one immortal. I mean, it kind of feels to me like there's going to be some pretty intense and dramatic new peace treaties,
oh,
new groups of belonging.
yeah, I agree. And, it could even lead to, like rewriting of constitutions and things. We had at the last time we had the American and French revolutions, and there was some other smaller revolutions around the globe. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to be violent. There could be, of course,
Mhm.
we're under a Venus morning star right now, and the last two wars started under a Venus morning star, right? Ukraine
Yeah.
and Israel,
Yeah.
Gaza. So
Yeah.
Venus isn't always all peace and love. That's what she aims for.
Right. Well, that's a good point. The morning star has that warrior aspect to her, right? And in the Babylonian astrology, she was more of that fighter version of herself in the morning star iteration, meaning, guys, that she was rising. Well, she's a visible planet in the morning. And when does she shift again then to the evening star, which is the more softer?
After the Gemini
Okay.
point,
Ah,
she'll disappear for about 80 days,
yeah.
because that's when she moves behind the sun from our perspective. So she's actually invisible for quite a long time. And then she'll become the evening star after that. And
Mhm.
Gemini being, as you said, like the twins contracts Mercury, I do wonder if there'll be some kind of agreements, alliances formed after that that could bring the end to some of these battles that we've got going on globally, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, I do hope so too, Morning Star bringing some peace to the world. And, I was just listening to the Indian astrologer, the young, incredible, what do you call it thing when they're a genius? It's like a reincarnated ancient Indian astrologer, the 17-year-old kid, but he actually predicted the latest conflagration in the Middle East 3 days before it happened, even targeting which countries would be involved. He also predicted the pandemic. And I think that's fascinating because he kind of said from his perspective, from the start to the finish, it's not over quick. Whatever that is over there in the Middle East will avoid the flagging on the algorithm here on YouTube, that it could be up to an 18-month journey from start to finish. So that's a little daunting. I hope he's not right.
And
Um,
18, 19 months, of course, is the Venus cycle. The great is one of the Venus cycles.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then so maybe that's exactly the point. It is going to take a Venus cycle to round it down to a final, denouement or end to it. Well, I think you just brought something up interesting before we talk about the star point, and that is the invisibility factor. I was just thinking about how, for instance, in some astrology of the ancient world, a Venus invisible is like, don't get married when Venus is invisible.
With
She's
it.
like, she presides over love. She's invisible on your wedding day. So are there certain things, roughly, what are her invisible times? It's 80 days, but I guess if the star point, when she's in the heart of the sun, everybody, which is, the 14th degree of Gemini around June 3rd and 4th, she is in an exalted place of power. But before that, she's under the beams as she approaches and then leaves the sun, and she's invisible. And therefore, she's not really maybe operational on all the things we want her to do. Is that how you would see it?
It really is how I would see it, and whilst I'm not a fan of don'ts, how I see the Venus cycle is she's invisible for about 8, 9 days on the retrograde cycle, which it depends where you are in the world and where the retrograde is because of or how the cosmos works. But the and that's when she's closest to Earth in the retrograde cycle that I work with. And to my mind, that's when we feel her most, because that's when the planet is closest to us. And that's why I work with this retrograde cycle as a class. When she disappears to the other side, like is going to happen in June, she's away kind of talking to the cosmos, if you like, on the other side of the sun, which is the core of our solar system. And I kind of feel like she's in her own underworld journey then. And yes, she's a little bit invisible to us. So anything to do with relationships, money, values, all social contracts, all the things that Venus is, are a little bit less accessible to us at that time collectively. So, it's probably time to kind of take a little bit of a break while she's invisible.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna grab something if it's on my bed. Hang on a second.
Okay.
I think I have it here. Hang on. I do. I found a wonderful website. I'm on traveling, so my office is a bedroom. I found a wonderful website. It's an astronomy website from astronomers, way they look at it, not astrologers. And Venus Invisible, they've blocked it out. I love this kind of thing. I actually printed it out so I
Oh,
remember. Yeah, I remember when an astronomer says something's invisible. And this astronomer, this website for astronomy says that we won't be able to see her, like obviously most places on the earth, April, May, June, July. And he's got her like still visible in dawn in March and then coming into the dusk hours in August.
yeah, it's a long time. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it often does depend where you are, when the heliacal rise as an evening star comes, which means she becomes visible again.
So, what would you tell our listeners here, April, May, June, July, knowing that she most likely isn't visible, to kind of not do in order to, avoid the kind of lack of Venusian support that they could use?
Yeah, I don't know. I never tell people to not do anything. I just tell people.
Okay. Yes, I know, but I'm a bossy
I
biz
know,
Aries. Can you come up with some ideas?
but you're probably right. It's probably not. Well, it might not be the best time to get married or sign even monetary things at some points. To make a new monetary contract in some way or a new investment. But I'm always a believer that we can tune into the energy and work it best in alignment with our own natal chart. So even if she's still invisible, I think I'm a very shamanic kind of astrologer. I, use shamanic journey work and other meditative practices to connect with the energies. I think we could still contact her even if she's behind the sun, if we choose to.
Well, I
Yeah.
I did take a course with a Babylonian astrologer one time where he did describe her invisible version of herself as also very like a sorceress or a witch or more like in the magical arts area of her reality.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you could also kind of see that, the sun is our core. She's kind of beaming what she's learning, like sorcery magic, if you like, witch, yeah,
Hmm.
down through the core into us, through the
Yeah.
sun's light. So I don't think she's completely inaccessible when she's invisible personally. So
Well, maybe it's like getting in touch with your inner diva, your inner Venus, your inner artist, your inner, witchy woman, feminine, divine feminine, because it's not about gender. And the whole idea that she's there, but she's not like going to show up as the winning the lottery that day or, the love of your life, maybe showing up in an obvious way or any of the good Venusian stories.
yeah, all of that. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So should we talk about because my son's getting married at the end of July or something like that. And I forgot about Invisible Venus. So now I'm like, because they asked me for looking at the election. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good for you. You got to look at an election chart for weddings with two people's charts anyway. And it's so
Yeah.
complicated. And I'm like, well, this is better than this. But now I'm like, oh, I think Venus is still invisible in late July. But maybe she's becoming slightly visible. Who knows?
I
So,
think it is energetically. And I also think, there's going to be plenty of people who get married in that period who will just do fine. It's a bit like Mercury retrograde. Some of the most successful businesses in the world were founded under a Mercury retrograde, when a lot of astrologers say, don't start anything.
yeah, exactly. So the superstition part of it too, I just was talking with a Mercury expert, Gary Caton, and we really reframed the retrograde recently in another video. So for this series of 24 events, and I think that it's kind of true. We just can't just accept sort of some kind of edict, right? We have to go into our own inner knowing, like you do shamanically, see what you can do with what is there. And also retrograde planet, Mercury or Venus are closer to Earth, like you mentioned, therefore they're more connected to us. So.
And you've always got to look at your own chart if it's something personal as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk about that Venus star point. And I know you also have some slides you might want to share to give us a bit of the lay of the land, the Sabian, for example, all of those juicy things you do.
Look at the Sabian. I could get that up very quickly though, but
Yeah, I forgot to look at the Sabian myself. So,
I thought I would just share. This is a slide I created for the Venus retrograde class. I've not had time to do. I've got some charts to share more. So we're currently under the retrograde Leo star. It's 20 Leo 28. I made it gold because I like Venus colors, beauty. Have to match the colors up with Leo, so it's not very visible. But then we're feeding to the 14 Gemini at June the 4th, 2024 star, and then we'll be moving round to the other stars. But we're always kind of under a 5-pointed star. So I do want to point that out. And so we are currently in another time of change as well, because the Venus 5-pointed star, which is why I wear the pentagram, is like an invisible clock moving backwards through the signs over time, over that 251 years. All right. So we're not only going to have this Gemini star point that's come on June the 4th in most places at 1429 Gemini, we're also at a time of moving out of the Scorpio star and into the Libra star. Last October, the 22nd, we had the first Libra star since the late 1800s, and then we've got one more Scorpio star, and that's fading out. And then the next retrograde star is March 2025. And that's 2 Aries, and then that star's fading out as well, and will become the Pisces Venus star in 2037, I think. Yeah. But anyway, we're moving out of a Martian time, does that tell you, into a Venusian time. And Gemini, I kind of see Gemini's role in this as being the change bringer, because Gemini is very much about change and looking at new perspectives and new rules. So, we're always under 5 different signs in a star, and we're at this point of change. And here we are with this Gemini star coming up that's right at the middle of Gemini. So it's another point of change, to my opinion, into this
mm,
real age of new ideas, new inventions, all the things we talked about. There's an awful lot to say about the Venus star, but I'm just going to share a couple of charts, and then we can just focus on the one that's coming up, if you like. Yeah.
sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay. So bear with me while I get this away. So this is just, like I said, I didn't have time to put them into slides. So the last Venus star point was in 2020. That was the retrograde one. And so that I see the retrograde star point as the start of the Venus cycles, with the one that's coming up in June as almost like the full moon for Gemini, if you like.
Oh, okay. Let's repeat that idea for our people because something I always forget myself, that
And
we're really looking at it almost like the retrograde version of the star point is like an inception and like a new moon archetype. And now we're at the 4 year of 8 year cycle, and it's like the fullness of that inception.
exactly. And we have cycles within cycles. So it's kind of almost going to be a full moon cycle 9.5 months after the August the 13th star point that we've just had. But then we've got these 8 year cycles, 4 and 8 years as well. So in 2020, we had a 13 Gemini star point, which I remember really well because I did a retrograde class on it and my moon is there.
Mm,
And this one was actually square Mars and square Centaur Nessus that I work with as well, and square Ceres. And in Pisces, this period since 2020, how many revelations have we been experiencing about generational abuse, which is Nessus? And particularly around women, we've had the abortion issue and women's healthcare come up. And again, as you said, this is not about gender. This is about the energy out there. We're kind of we're really getting it in our face since 2020 about
mhm,
how the controlling of other people, particularly women, children, things like that. That's been coming up all the time since then. So now we move to this next one that's coming up. And whilst the Gemini star point does usually move backwards by degrees through signs, this one's a bit of an anomaly. It moves forward one, but that sometimes happens. So it's at about the same place. The last one was 13. This is kind of like the full moon at 14
mhm,
degrees. And as you pointed out in our text, it's square to Saturn. I would also point out that it's square Juno, the queen of the gods, Jupiter's or Zeus's wife, and she is kind of our sacred contracts with each other. And I kind of think, we're seeing, just to give the example of women's healthcare, because Juno is very much the goddess of women and children, amongst other things.
mhm.
We are seeing in the US, states moving to encode women's healthcare rights into state constitutions rather than rely on 9 judges on the Supreme Court. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the changes because these are immutable signs. So I could go into huge detail, but I'm not going to. But what's also interesting to me, though, is that, of course, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And Mercury is also in Gemini on this coming VSP conjunct Jupiter. So I think there's going to be some big, big changes, big rulings, big news, big information that's going to be quite a paradigm shift. But it's also interesting that because Mercury rules the star point, it's in that air trine to Pluto, bringing big transformation. With Jupiter as well, expanding everything. So there's I think it's really exciting what this star point in June is what's going to emerge from it over the 9.5 months after this till the Aries star point in March 2025, but then also over 4 years, 8 years, all those Gemini cycles.
Yeah. Well, can I add something to that too? Is like, well, that's that first star point we talked about at 13 degrees back in 2020, square Mars, the god of war. Yes, he was in Pisces, yes, but it's
Mm,
still Mars, the god of war. In our individual lives, we may have found that star point happened to, be about some separation, some end, some change in the Gemini part of our sky in particular. And I look back at that, it was huge for me around, it's near my IC, about changes of location and where I lived. It was huge energies in this like the 4 years from 2020 to 24 have mostly been delineated by changes of home that I not necessarily was welcoming, right? A push or shove from Mars. But for
mm,
the world, as you mentioned, there's that we're in the morning star, which she loves to cause, has to go to battle. And we baked in a baking in, guys, is like there's a thing that happens at a certain point, and like if you want to bake in, something into clay, it's kind of baked in from the inception of the
Yeah.
start point, this kind of Martian element. It was very, let's look at that war story that we've been going through,
Oh,
Ukraine.
yeah, we're in more kind of war than, I mean, we've always been at war, I think, apart from a couple of years, for hundreds of years, but we're kind of in more war now than we have been for a long time. We're really kind of seeing battles of superpowers and things like that. But in our personal lives, since that 2021, I think we all kind of know what happened in 2020 as well. There's been
Mhm.
a lot of separation, like in families and things who fell out over all pandemic-y
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely. Yes, of course. I mean, because the twins are like the brothers, and also like one astrologer pointed out the neighbors, like, Russia and Ukraine are neighbors going to battle, but individually, we all had incredible loss of connection to our brothers and sisters or our family members over disagreements about how we should behave during a time of a pandemic. So that's so true.
Is. And with this one being square to Juno and Saturn in Pisces and aspecting Pluto and aspecting the nodes incidentally, I
Hmm.
am hopeful that there could be kind of some coming back together. Not on the day necessarily, but from that Venus star point of people kind of, coming back together, kind of imagining those splits in relationships that happened, or creating new relationships. And of
Hmm.
course, interestingly, talking about that Venus Mars story from the one before, we're in the Venus and Mars ruled nodes. So, this that whole story between Venus and Mars is showing up there.
Oh, absolutely. But then there's Venus, like the node is in her home, right? She's got the south node, which can be K2, wisdom, spirituality, a deeper, connection, like unplugging from the matrix and moving into divine recognition. K2 or south node has a lot of depth and spiritual parts to it from the Indian philosophy, and just that she's flowing to that part of reality from who's in her own home, right? It just has such a good feeling to me, and she's forming a wedge in the sky to the nodes of fate, right? A sextile to the north and a flow to the south, and those wedges are usually very positive.
I think so, yeah. And I'd love to hear, your perspective on that Aries North Node, because you've studied kind of the more Vedic kind of perspective more than I have. And I tend to go with that more than, I come from evolutionary astrology as it's known, but I tend to kind of learn more and bring my own thing into it as well. So, what's this Aries North Node going to bring us? Let's
Well,
talk
and
about.
yeah, and it's not always good. I mean, because we can like, I remember when the North Node was moving through a part of my sky that I thought, yay, me, it's going to be the love of my life in my fifth house of romance. It was me spending 2 years saving my daughter from herself. Because the
Right.
fifth house is children and romance. So, it's where we have to kind of sometimes overreach or strive or grasp or expand, but at the expense maybe of, something else. There's a quality about losing one's head, with the node. And the node is suspiciously close to Chiron and Hygeia. Is that Sedna and Mars up there?
Yeah. Oh, that's Hygeia. Yeah, Hygeia kind
Hyge Sedna,
of
maybe?
this over here. So
Oh,
said
Eris. Oh my God,
Eris.
this Eris.
Oh
I
yeah,
never use Eris. That's why I wasn't sure who that was. Oh my goodness.
Eris. Yes, yes, yes. The troublemaker.
Yeah,
Yes,
this shit disturber.
yes, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have a thought here. I was because you brought my attention to the dispositor being Mercury and he's in his domicile with Venus. So in other words, he's the boss, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling Venus how he wants her to handle the star point, basically. And I find it fascinating that there's such a beautiful flow to Mercury and Pluto. And I thought, well, it'd be really interesting to grab good old Renn Butler's The Archetypal Universe, just as you were speaking. I never leave home without it. I pack this baby in a suitcase. Check my description box, guys. This is an amazing resource. Like you too. And I got to get him back on my channel. Poor guy. He was traumatized because he brought up politics and he
Oh
started. Yes, he
no.
started to diss one of the parties in the United States from his liberal Canadian perspective and the leader of it. And then he got such bad troll comments. He's afraid to come back on my channel. Anyway, Renn Butler on Mercury Pluto energy, and this is a flow. So I'm going to go with the non-shadow, I guess.
Yeah.
Passionate, probing mind, deep insight into emotional causes and motivations, interest in criminology or depth psychology, a gift for persuasive communication. And he got some great quotes in here. He's always good at finding like, people who like Maya Angelou has a trine between Mercury and Pluto. And Maya Angelou's quote is, "The need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind."
Ooh.
Oh, I do. Okay. Are you kidding me? I love the need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind. Oh,
Do you know Maya Angelou is kind of my spirit writing guide?
oh, I didn't know that. Well, now you've got to use that quote on your VSP class. Oh, that's not you're gonna not gonna do one for that one. You should start doing a direct VSP mini class, my dear.
Good. Yeah, and I probably will. I've just
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
so busy this year. But
So
before we look ahead, do you want me to read the symbols and then we can talk?
yes, yes, the Sabian symbol in particular.
Well,
Hey.
I'm actually going to read the Chandra symbol first.
Okay,
So
sure.
I really like John Sandbach's symbols. So I'll read his interpretation of the Sabians, then I'll read the initial Sabian. But he does the Omega symbol, the Chandra symbol, and the Pleiadian. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I love these symbols. The Omega symbol for that VSP is a magician's tower looms above the surrounding landscape. And that just like speaks to me of what we were saying about Venus being in her kind of witch mode on the other side,
Oh, yes.
kind of looming above our landscape and kind of alchemizing. That's another Gemini word, I think, really alchemizing some magic up there that she's going to emerge with after the after she reappears as Evening Star, which is the more peaceful love goddess, Venus, by the way. Now, the Chandra symbol is people gathering salt from the ocean. And he talks about using salt as a mineral for grounding, and how that can help us kind of create this common goal that we're moving towards. And salt really is a very essential element on the earth. So, it's contained in a lot of things. But his overall message for these symbols is about being aware of what's missing in communication, what's left out, implied, or avoided due to fear or bias. So that kind of speaks to, bringing in that Libra, Mars, Libra, Aries nodes as well, of kind of very direct communication to each other to try and resolve and find out differences. And that's how it speaks to me anyway. So he talks about as well communication based on an awareness of what unites us in seeking the common goal of enlightenment or growth, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, that's I found interesting. His Pleiadian symbol, which are his Sabian symbols, are words from a conversation drift up into the sky and are carried away by the winds. So that's that's a really interesting one as well. So I'll let people think what they want to that one. And let's go to the original Sabian symbol, which is, so we go up, by the way, if anybody wants to Google the symbols, this is at 14 degrees. So we always go up to the next number because the symbols start at 1 and the degrees start at 0. So
Exactly. Yeah. So just always round up, guys. Even if the minutes are like 1 degree and 59 minutes, you still go up to the number two.
exactly. So the Sabian symbol is two Dutch children talking. And read a few interpretations, but I'm just going to give James Burgess's quick interpretation on this. He says this one's about validation. He said, received messages are not free from the bias of subjective interpretation. So we should get confirmation if we can. We should seek confirmation and validation. So, unsurprisingly, really, all these symbols are about communication and starting to talk to each other again and starting to look at other perspectives and and to really kind of learn, seek some validation for our own ideas as well, but also to look at other people's perspective and take that on board. But anyway.
Yeah, when you mentioned salt, it made me, for some reason, the phrase salt of the earth came to mind as well, even though it's the salt from the sea and that particular symbol you were reading. Um, it just for some reason, I mean, Jupiter is there, and he's also with Mercury, and Jupiter is about, the king or the justice or the goodness or the wisdom, and just salt of the earth, maybe the people, like just the people. I'm finding that I think one of the things that we're experiencing as a collective, and it'll probably increase when Pluto in Aquarius either pushes us against control and tyranny of, groups trying to be controlled, but also, when Pluto was in Aquarius before, historically, there were a lot of these little minor groups like principalities of economic power that were formed in ancient times in Europe and as well. And there's an idea I had when you said salt. It kind of is like, even now, even as we're recording this in December 20th of 2023, you're seeing the grassroots, ground level, salt of the earth folk rise up to protest what is happening in our world, but even to economically protest by boycotting. So
Exactly.
the salt of the earth is the everyday person, not the leader, not the king.
And how interesting that Jupiter and Mercury are square to Saturn in Pisces, which kind of speaks to me of salt of the earth.
Exactly, absolutely. And I'm finding that this is going to probably be something we're going to be surprised by. I'm hopeful, actually. People are like, I said when Pluto moved into Aquarius, it's power to the people. Other people said, no, it's power over. I said, no, I don't think so. I think people are going to take over their own authentic power, realizing that the ones in power that they elected are beholden to lobbyists, to corporate interests, to whoever gave them enough money to be elected, and your actual vote is not relevant. I mean, not to go into details because, but there are polls in the United States right now or all over the world where the populace, the people, are 70% against something happening in the world today, which we will not name. And yet the governments aren't listening. They're doing their own thing based on who elected them and where the money goes.
But then we can, as I mentioned already briefly, we're starting to see these moves at a local Gemini people, Aquarius level to change state constitutions, and that will trickle up. And I think, people are tired of the control. And I think there's certainly going to be an element at first of those trying to hang on to their power and trying to exert more power and control. But I don't think they're going to. I agree with you. If we look at the whole picture, I don't think they're going to be successful ultimately.
No, I don't either. Not if history is any indicator. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I was going to talk about the old ops story. And it's just a really cute little addition to what's going on in the sky.
Yeah.
I can share Ops in the chart too. Let me bring it over. Ops, guys, is the wife of Saturn, and she kind of got a delineation of bringing something good, like a happy ending after a time of great difficulty or travail, or even sometimes she's relevant in terms of just the word ops. The minor asteroids are uh, scarily literal. Every time we think of a minor asteroid, we want to get highfalutin and talk about it in some esoteric way. But ops is opportunity, right? We can just be that simple. And so we do have ops playing a very positive role in the star point at 14 degrees of Aquarius, co-present with Pluto in a very tight, beautiful connection to Venus and the sun. And to me, that could really open up some concept here. And the software won't draw it in because it's a minor asteroid. It's not really trining Pluto. It is, but it's not. That's the Mercury bit. It is Venus Sun in a trine to ops for opportunity or happy endings after times of great travail and difficulty. And I kind of feel like, wow, there's a silver lining in the story here, regarding what this is trying to do. We already read that great Maya Angelou quote about change and the bulldozer, and that is connected to the Pluto Mercury trine here. And then ops is adding her spice to the mix. in my own reality, when I've seen ops get active in my chart or the charts of clients, I've kind of noticed it does look a lot like a new opportunity or something people would call an opportunity with Venus, maybe for peace or opportunity for uniting or joining factions that are divided, Gemini, that are two. So yeah, I kind of have like, I just feel good about it in each of our lives when we go through this story. Like when I do the all signs portion separate from my interview with my friend Louise, we'll all be talking about how there might be a specific opportunity emergent from the start point in your Aquarius zone of real estate and connected to your Gemini part of your sky as well. Do you have
Oh,
any thoughts about that ops over there?
well, I love how Laurie always brings in an extra asteroid for me to look at as well. But but what I will say is, and I don't have the exact degree, but I know that one of my favorite centaurs, because I use the main centaurs now, who are really bringing in a centauric process of healing as well. Chiron was the first one, of course, discovered, not invented. But anyway, Chariklo, his wife, whose name literally means grace spinner, and she has kind of this midwife spinning a new story kind of energy. She's also almost exactly at that degree. She moves slowly, so she's still going to be there at that time. So with Ops there and Cariclo there, both in this trine aspect to the new VSP, I find that very positive as well. I keep getting the image that I've thought this for a long time, that we are really kind of creating a new story of how we live on this earth in so many ways. And this is speaking to that. This is this opportunity to create this new story. So,
Yeah, in one of your Substack posts, you were commenting on as difficult as it is, how amazing it is we're here for this time.
yeah, that beautiful quote that I shared. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wait, I just put her in there now next to Ops. She's at
yeah,
17. Ops is at
yeah,
14. So we can see her now. Yay. So I missed that piece completely. So it does bring even another layer to how potentially really auspicious and healing this part of our new Venus story can be. And that she is coming after a time of such incredible difficulty in the world to do with war, to do with illness, to do with factions of splitting and dividing and polarizing people.
definitely. Yeah. So,
Mm.
the majority of the aspects to this Venus star point are very supportive as well. Trine, sextiles, the wedge, all those kind of things. The square to Saturn is a little bit perhaps more challenging, but sometimes that pushes us to change. And Saturn in Pisces has been very much about releasing and letting go, Piscean kind of energies. So I don't see that
Yes.
too.
Well, and Saturn has been tracking really tightly with Gong Gong, this big sea serpent, water serpent, since he entered into Pisces in 2000 and in March 3rd or so or 7th of 2023. And I think that's also showed us a lot to do with what the water serpent, sea serpent is in Chinese mythology. That's an archetype of, chaotic destruction, like something that destroyed the earth, or it can bring large scale catastrophe. And we've been seeing a bit of that, on a smaller scale, things to do with water and difficulty, water and hardship. But I wonder if Gong Gong's still with Saturn at that time. I kind of felt watching it happen because we had that little submersible
Oh,
implode.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we had Fukushima radiation water dispensed apparently clean into the ocean. We had a ferry capsized with a bunch of people on it outside Greece. There's so many. We've had water catastrophes is what I'm sort of getting at. So unfortunately, that's still pretty active in 2024.
And I think a lot of that will be, we've had a few migrant boats capsize actually. So, we'll possibly see more of that, unfortunately. But also, it's kind of gives us something to look at about how we are kind of treating each other, the people, Aquarius again. So, all of that.
Yeah, and Venus being able to witness it, right? And being well supported by that Pluto Chariklo / Ops, maybe, the way, even though it's a square, she's able to get her 2 cents into the mix, you know what I mean? And maybe make some kind of difference about it. Because negotiations, treaties, pacts, things like that can be a Venusian energy, even in Gemini, right? Because it's more like a Libra thought, but Gemini is about two parties, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
more about kind of contract kind of energy. So yeah, it's kind of like let's do a new treaty or let's do a new agreement kind of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that comes into play as well next year, especially regarding areas of difficulty in water, Taiwan, and such as even the water rights off of different places in the world, particularly in the Middle East right now, where there is a natural gas resources or off the coast of GAZA, and basically there's a lot of potential who gets those rights in the wake of the catastrophe of war afterward. Gong Gong is here at 5 degrees of Pisces. So Saturn is finally moved away from him by next year by aspect. Whew.
To say the Black Sea probably as well, talking of water, but yeah.
Oh, Black Sea. Yeah. So all the areas of hardship and water.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see Gong Gong getting left in the dust. He moves really, really slowly. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the more challenging things are slowly moving. I mean, there's always challenges and opportunities in everything, but I
Hmm.
really kind of do feel we're heading into we're kind of out of the worst, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we definitely hope we're out of the worst because this has been pretty rough. And as you know, we see the situation of war in the Middle East continuing to play out. My only worry would be, and that's not even a start point conversation, is that it's going to take something even more like gasping for humanity, like a shock and awe for us
Yeah.
to like you get real and pull back out of unsustainable directions. I'm not going to go into this today because for the all signs, I want everyone to see the positivity of now Chariklo. I didn't know how to pronounce her name. Is it Chariklo?
I started saying Chariklo, but apparently the Greek is Chariklo, so people
Okay,
use.
Chariklo. So Chariklo and Ops here flowing to the Gemini corridor, bringing such goodness on top of the flow to the nodes of fate is what I'll do on the all signs, but not to go into this today. But there is Orcus, the god, Etruscan god of the underworld, opposite Saturn, squaring Venus, making an exact T square. And although Orcus can be about wealth and power, as can Pluto, he is still like a very Plutonian figure.
But then I don't know enough about him. I find Pluto is a Plutonian figure, of course. He's kind of our shadow, takes us into those shadow realms and kind of the excrement and the sewers. But also he does so to excavate them and to mine the inner diamonds. I think
Mm.
I've had
Mm.
so many personal Pluto transits because of the way my chart is. I've kind of like the Pluto queen, and every transit has ultimately been rewarding, even if it wasn't easy at the time. So,
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Well, I've got Pluto square Venus as Pluto goes into Aquarius. I'll be living with that. Pluto square Venus and Taurus. I already got the onset of it, and I'll be living with that for the next few years. I'll keep you posted on that one, Louise. Oh my goodness. Well, this was a lot of fun. Do you have any last thoughts you would like to chat about with everybody here today on the Venus story? Otherwise, I'll just go ahead without you and do the all signs.
no, I might actually just to lead people a little bit further ahead because I know you've got other things to do. We've got the next two Gemini star points after that are all in this love more exact trine to Pluto. So
Hmm.
maybe I'll write something about that and people can go and find that after listening.
Oh, yeah, please do. And this is going out the first week of January. So if you have anything written about that, becoming more proximate over the next 2 star points, which will take us like, brain, come on, 24 and 24, 5, 6,
28.
7, 2028, 2032, into more of this Plutonian Venusian intensity, right? But in a powerful and positive way, because again, it is a trine. Well, since Renn's Butler's book is here, let's talk about the Pluto Venus when it's not necessarily operating from a place of like fatal attraction or toxic love or dark love or, the more, daunting obsessive love qualities of Venus Pluto. It'd be nice to see what he has to say in his amazing book, The Archetypal Universe. And it's in my description box, guys. I decided to always put it there because people keep emailing me going, what are you talking about? What's that book? He says, Venus Pluto, deep and intense passions, renewing and regenerating forces in relationships, renewing and regenerating forces in relationships, the power of love, the drive to unite, the interplay of beauty and the beast. And let's see if there's a good quote by one of his people who has a Venus Pluto. No, 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 no. I love this one. Where there is great love, there are always miracles.
See, I
Yeah.
think that bodes well for your Venus Pluto square.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, for goodness sakes, what am I going to do? Become fatally attracted to someone? It's happening in my fourth house. Well, we'll see. Could have to do with things. Fourth house matters for sure.
Yeah.
So,
My
okay.
thoughts on that, but that's, I'm not
Well, if you've had gone through a Venus Pluto square, natal, to let me know on the back end later on and give me a couple tips. Oh my God. So I think we did a great job today. I really had fun. And don't forget, everyone, I'm putting Louise's Substack. It's free. You can get in for free. It's amazing content. You're going to be really enjoying it. And if you want to up level for subscription, you get even more like access to her chapters of her book as she's writing it. And also you can always find her at Cosmic Owl Astrology, which is her website, and also on YouTube. And I'll be putting a link to her channel for YouTube in the description box underneath our conversation as well.
awesome. And I do aim to have the book finished writing and hopefully ready to publish by the VSP, because the VSP is on my Gemini moon. So there you go.
Oh yeah, you got to capture it for sure, for sure. Try to work the magic and do on this the cazimi itself like something epic, Yeah.
Well, thanks, Laurie.
That was so much fun. I'm gonna just cut us. I'm gonna stop the recording and then say goodbye to you, and then I'll just keep on talking by myself. All right, because all signs is next, guys. So welcome back. We're going to continue now just with me. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Venus star point in 2024 and your sign. I want you to listen for your sun, moon, or rising. If you're in the live premiere or you're listening to this later or whatever you're listening to this thing, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and help this channel grow. I have a 24 special all sign videos. If you want to get them, they are in the description box below. The bundle is over by the end of January at the sale price of $59. But after that, it's $77 you can get it. And that's 90-minute videos times 12, one for each sign. You can buy it from friends and family. It's basically a PDF with links to the content, which is hidden and unlisted or private. Okay, so let's get rolling and let's talk about this story. Of course, I will share the chart with you. For my time stamping sister, we're not going to spend a long time here because I'll be doing another video on this later on as the star point comes up. I put 25 to 30 videos out a month on my channel, so you might want to get liking and subscribing and hit that notification bell so you can check in for what's going on later on next May in more detail. So we're going to start with Aries, and then we're going to go through all signs. All right, Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is a Venus star point in your natal third house, and it's going to reset some area of your life here. And it is taking cue, as Louise also mentioned, from the Venus star point that happened in 2020. And this is kind of a fullness from that star point that happened back then at 13 degrees of Gemini. Certainly, if you're an Aries sun, moon, or rising, you're going to find resets, and you have something closer to 13 degrees of Gemini, 14 degrees of Gemini. This is going to be more accurate for you. But anyway, it's going to bring you some positive flowing to a sextile to your identity, or your sun or your moon, a change over the course of not just the 4 years that follow, but the 9.5, 10 months that follow, because as Venus is pregnant with something new for you, and she's moving into her softer, more demure evening star, where she's bringing some more gentle changes to your life. Third house can be about writing projects, online, social media, trips and travel, good things happening with neighbors, neighborhood, and siblings. It's blessed by Jupiter, it's watched over by Mercury, and it's flowing to opportunity in your 11th house. This can bring lots of opportunity to influence larger groups of people, some opportunity to become very more successful in the greater gains you make from your career, especially with that flow from Pluto, and also maybe some opportunities connected to elder siblings, and also maybe even a little bit of celebrity can happen in the 11th house as well. if you are in any way wanting to really actualize some of your longer range hopes and dreams in your life, I think the star point can really bring that to life. And you'll really find that you're able to come up with the ideas, third house, writing or communication, third house, Jupiter, things to do with goodness, luck, and opportunity and teaching, to apply that to your greater career gains and bring something new there. And finally, I'd say just in general, the energetic shift here is saying Pluto wants to participate in what the star point activity has been doing for the last, several decades. This is the first time Pluto chimes in, and Pluto says something like, let's really get more wealthy, more powerful, more potent. How we influence large groups of people, how we can create greater resources and revenue and gains from our career, and how we can really powerfully transform our deepest wishes and beliefs and communicate them, third house, into the world through writing, through speaking, through social media, through podcasts, through travel. Oh, we have to with a bit challenge here, guys, because I've locked this on the 0 point of Aries. So let me fix it so we can go forward in the sky. Let's put it into the right house system. I apologize for that. All right, whole sign houses, where are you? I'm in the back end. There we go. Now we should be able to move ourselves forward. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, Taurus, this is going to be don't forget, as Louise mentioned, I hope you all listened to the intro. It was in 2020 that we had a star point here in Gemini, and it was very difficult. It had a square from Saturn, but it was also the kind of an inception point for this one, which is a full moon midpoint of a change cycle, but it's still its own fresh energy of a new beginning in your second house of earnings, money, resources, and possessions. Because Mercury is here, it can be, and with Jupiter, commercial success, buying and selling, money success in general. And he's really going to help you over the 4 years that follow, Taurus, really increase your success financially. Its bottom line is a money glow up for you. As well, you can see the star point as it applies will have in the 10 months that follow, not just the 4 years that follow, the most obvious impact where you can see how this is going to be a financially upbeat energy. Now, Jupiter does rule your 8th house of inheritances, your 8th house of shared resources with a partner, and that also might indicate some way in which that money is coming through your sky. I also would say to you that you have opportunity in your career providing greater forces of income, revenue, and financial goodness. Venus loves being here. She's a goddess of money and a god in a money house. Mercury is very adept at helping you have ideas and communications and negotiations and intelligence to save that money, preserve that money, increase that money, especially with Jupiter. And yeah, Jupiter's not in his happy sign, but he's under the rule of Mercury telling you what to do. Now, also, you can see that you have this opportunity in your 10th house with Chariklo, which brings a kind of spinner of grace and goodness. So really a sweetness about opportunity and expansion and growth and power in your career space and reputation space over the course of the first 9.5 months. From June 4th, add 9.5 months. But remember, this story doesn't fully close down until 2028. So it's going to give you a super financial and career space glow up in a way you've never seen before, because Pluto is giving you wealth and power and transformation in your reputation and career with collaboration by Venus. Hey, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, this is your story. You've got this energy happening yet again in the house of you. Go back to 2020 when the star point also occurred. And it was pretty well close to that 14th degree, 13th degree. So again, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising, do you have those placements within 3 or 4 degrees of 14 or 13? These have been very intense change years brought on by Venus for you. Now, this is, of course, the Venus becoming direct motion. I talked earlier about it. Morning star, she's going into her sweet, soft, and gentle energy as she opens up a new opportunity or opportunities in the 9th house. Now, that's foreign lands, foreign shores, and travel. That's third marriages, and that's things to do with courts and legal matters, book publishing, and also deep spiritual philosophy, ideology, and meaning. Those areas are going to be opening up in a beautiful way because you have opportunity ops up there, also happy endings after times of difficulties, Chariklo spinning wisdom and healing and grace, magic and miracles up there. And so the flow between the ninth house and the first house is amazing. It's like that Maya Angelou quote that I brought up earlier when I was talking with Louise. I hope you guys listened to the beginning, but I'm going to repeat the quote by Maya Angelou, and it is, it was Mercury Pluto, right? Yes, let me find it. I'm not going to give up. First of all, when there is great love, there are always miracles, is the Venus Pluto, but the Mercury Pluto quote, because this is the house of God that's being activated, and it was what we call a Dharma house with Ops and Pluto up there. Maya Angelou says, the need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind. The need for change bulldozed a road down the center of my mind is a very Pluto, Mercury energy that's saying what kind of change is going to happen here. The need for change can bulldoze a road here for you. And especially down the center of your mind, right? Because this is a Gemini. Do you need to publish books? Do you need to travel abroad? Do you need to move abroad? You could even move abroad because Mercury rules your house of home and homeland. And so moving abroad, writing books, finding a spiritual path, powering up into true power there. These are stories that are going to be very important to you over the next 9.5, 10 months that follow, and also the next year that follows as well. 4 years that follow as well. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign, the energy of the cazimi in Gemini is occurring for you right in your 12th house. And your 12th house is kind of a deep psychological, spiritual place. It's often where you can't access content without meditating or dreaming at night, but it is past lives, perhaps. It has to do energetically with spiritual awakening, liberation, moksha, full enlightenment. For some cancers, though, this can also represent revenue generated from foreign lands. And if you have payment, Stripe, PayPal processors, this marketplace of foreign shores can be very awakened for you in a powerful way over the course of the 9.5 months that follow, and more broadly, the 4 years that follow this star point in June. Because you have not only Pluto for power and wealth in the 8th house, but also opportunity ops for thrival and growth, and like a green thumb, you can increase your revenue through royalty income, passive income, shared resource with a partner, business income as well. And a lot of this could come through things that you're doing in the online world, because, of course, Mercury is the ruler of your 3rd house of the online world. And he's embroiled right in this story as he is tucked in there with Jupiter and Venus and the sun. And Jupiter can bring you prosperity. And it looks to me like with the Mercury and Jupiter combination, all flowing to the 8th house, a lot of you are getting into a path here, less so about earning money as maybe investing money, money-making money, passive money, income, revenue, coming into the story of your life. For very few of you, there's a possibility of in legacy wealth and inheritance in the 9.5 months that follow from your family of origin, as Venus rules your 4th house and flows to that south node. We'll be diving much deeper into this in the month of May next year, as we approach that June 4th star point. So please like and subscribe, because I'll be taking this to another level of interpretation and giving each person about a 10-minute story. But I want you to get the gist of it, right? This is an overview preview event. All right, Leo, sun, moon, and especially rising sign. This is a story that has a star point happening in your 11th house. You might want to go back to the Venus star point retrograde at 13 degrees in 2020, where 11th house things were challenged to change because Mars was squaring this, challenged to change. But anyway, this energy is now saying to you, you are going to experience a new beginning and a reset in a very positive, bounteous, lucky way, because not only do you have Jupiter in the house of his joy attending the star point, midwifing it, but also Mercury in his domicile, guarding over the whole thing and telling everybody what to do. Mercury here would like you to see more revenue or abundance and prosperity from your career space, Leo. And that's very likely going to show up in an obvious and tangible way in the 9.5 months that follow the star point, and even more widely in the 4 years that follow. You might be able to say, what new directions did you start to go in January 2020 to create more financial goodness in your life from your career path? At the same time, you might find that this Venus star point, because it's flowing to ops, opportunity, and grace spinner and miracle spinner, Chariklo, some real beautiful, amazing miracles around the way you engage in primary love relationships, and how that engagement with your significant other also brings greater goodness of larger groups of social circles and belonging to both of you. However, it's also a house of business partnership and also the way you reach your audience and marketplace. It is 10th from the 10th. So your 7th house outreach to your audience and market is full of opportunity, grace and goodness, power and wealth. And therefore that also flows and expands for you. But certainly you could end up in a marriage-like relationship in the 10 months that follow, and you meet the person that within 4 years you might marry, because Venus rules the 10th house of weddings. And because with this Pluto ops opportunity, after happy endings, you might meet your person, likely through social groups of belonging, friends who introduce you, and such matters as that. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, you Virgos are going to experience this in your career space as you did in 2020. If you're a student or retired, it's just your reputation and how the world sees you and what you're up to. For instance, my Virgo rising daughter in 2020, when the star point happened at 13 degrees, ended up having a critically chaotic 4 years that followed and had to change university. So as a student, there was a change, disruption, because that star point was square Mars, her educational path. But here you have this opportunity that's really blessed. We have Mercury in domicile, Jupiter beside him, and it's opening up really abundant career opportunities, but also changes of reputation. I'm not going to lie. I think Venus up here will get some of you married in the next, either engaged in the next 9 months and married in the next 4 years, because this is the wedding house of visibility. Venus is there. Jupiter is all the legal matters of weddings. This looks very wedding bells for some of you Virgos. Now, if you're already married, of course not, unless you do a rededication ceremony. The other kind of thing here is that don't forget, this is going to be flowing to ops. And so you're at the career up level, career success, career, power, flowing to ops in the house of work, and also grace spinner Chariklo, and also Pluto. So power in work, power in reputation, power in career. 6 and 10 are Artha houses. And Venus is even saying in her flow to your second house, you don't need to hustle so much anymore. It's not about really trying to hustle to make money. In fact, you may, as according to Venus, find that your partner's resources, inheritance monies, or other chunky monies really can support you to thrive in your career as well, because maybe you're not so worried about the day job just to make the money, but following something that's passionate and purposeful and true in your career and reputation path. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. Venus is your girl, and she's up there in the 9th house doing a star point in a house of spirituality and religion, academic environments, foreign shores and foreign lands, third marriages, and spiritual philosophy, court and legal matters, and book publishing. I know some Libras who publish books. This is great for you guys. This star point is auspicious. Jupiter blesses it. Mercury gives it domicile lordship, and you're going to find really good things around contracts, negotiations, and agreements to do with legal matters, courts, and book publishing, foreign shores, international, and foreign countries as well. The star point happening in June will maybe give you a 9.5 to 10 month show me your hand, says Venus, like you'll know what she's up to, but they can also give you that same flow for 4 years afterwards until 2028. And also you can see here that you have this opportunity, Chariklo spinning grace, magic, and miracles in your 5th house of creativity, entrepreneurship, joy, children, fertility, good for pregnancy, but is also the house of romantic love. And if you are a single Libra with this story, oh goodness gracious, North Node, sextile 7th house, Venus flowing to the 5th with ops opportunity and happy endings after time of travail, Pluto power. Okay, I'm just going to say a lot of you are going to meet somebody that's going to be a very good match that may very well be a lasting relationship and heal some wounds you may have been dealing with about healing and committed love and some challenges with Chiron, bringing you in the 9 months that follow a powerful new relationship. Or if you're already in one, helping expand and heal the one you're already in long-term love and business partnerships. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a Venus star point last seen in 2020 here at 13 degrees and now at 14 degrees in your eighth house of chunky money. Venus is a money goddess in a money house. So here we have the potential for some new financial goodness emerging from this star point. And look in general to the 9.5 months that follow. Maybe some inheritance. This is Jupiter. It is an inheritance transit. Inheritance money, legacy wealth from the family of origin, especially mom or dad or up your line. And you may see this as an incitement of receiving that money over the course of the 4 years that follow the star point, especially with Pluto in the fourth house, trining Mercury, and legal negotiations and agreements to do with legacy wealth being passed on to you. Not everybody will have this, of course. This can operate also to be wealth to do with property, land, real estate, or investments in the stock market, 401k, or other financial royalty income, passive income, advertising revenue, things like that. Also, if you've had any kind of feeling that you've been dealing with some difficulties in the home, Ops is opportunity and happy endings and grace and miracles regarding your property, homeland, and real estate travails, if there have been any, coming into a good stage from June the 4th, add 10 months, and even beyond that, the next 4 years after that star point. I do like that Venus is flowing to the North Node in the house of work, indicating positive developments in your work and career space as well. Certainly, I think this is definitely going to wealth you up. It's going to give you more financial resources from money that you're not earning in the 9 months and 9 to 10 months that follow the star point, as well as over the 4 years that follow. Hey, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. What's going on is that you have a Venus star point yet again, not seen since 2020, but back again now in 2024 in your seventh house of the audience, the marketplace, the clients, the customers, the public, but also your marriage house, also your significant business partnerships and long-term significant love relationships, not just marriage. You know, you're with the person, is monogamous, so you're together. You're probably living together. So if you want to look at it this way, what happened in 2020, that was initiated with a lot of square tension from Mars, giving it some kind of critical need for change, but some tension in this part of your seventh house matters, especially when it comes to significant love relationships or legal contracts. Now, this story is a new beginning in a positive way. We got Jupiter bringing luck, and we got Mercury bringing contracts and negotiations and lording over it. New legal contracts regarding business partnerships, marketplace, audiences, and others. Anything legal to do with foreign lands and foreign countries can be involved with Venus conjunct the Sun, who rules your house of foreign places. But you also have to look at that flow to Pluto and Ops and Chariklo. And in the third house, this could indicate some kind of positive shift of direction, maybe regarding where you live, changing your neighborhood, finding a new neighborhood, possibly energy here that is new opportunities for writing, for travel, and for communicating, especially online. If you were single and this happened, I'd say, I'll get on the online dating world. June 4th, add 10 months, and you could find the opportunity of a lifetime for a significant new love relationship that can last. If you're already in one, it might mean some kind of changes are needed that involve neighborhood shifts or travel shifts, but ultimately also legal status. I'm not going to lie here, because Jupiter brings blessed endings. And if you're in a relationship that's not meant for you, this could be kind of undoing the contract, right? Breaking up. But even if you're married, unwinding the legalities around the relationship and maybe beginning to end it. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Here we have this energy of a new beginning, a reset in your work house. And it's time for you get to work. And this new reset button can be about health. It can be about tendencies and debts. It can be about pets, right? So you might want to go back to 2020. It's mostly a workhouse. The workhouse is active here, especially with the South Node in the 10th. And this is a work and finances energy for you. And So you might be going into some kind of new beginning here in June, add 10 months with a new job, basically, and or a new job opportunity. It can involve foreign places and foreign lands because we have a baked in Mars in Aries and North Node, where this job requires you to travel or move or gallivant, or the work is coming from a foreign entity, perhaps. But nonetheless, you do have something changing here in the idea of your work. And you certainly can improve your health in pleasurable ways. Venus is resetting that and maybe putting you into a mindset of better health through pleasurable new health directions. Contracts, agreements, signing a contract for a new position, new work are possible. We have flow to opportunity in the house of earnings. That's ops over here in your second house, Pluto, power and wealth, and happy endings after difficulty, and Chariklo for some spinning of magic, miracles, and grace. Well, hello. Looks like you're going to get a lovely, lovely glow up in some kind of work, career, money opportunity coming into your life in the wake of the 9.5 months that follow the star point, and more precisely or more generally over the 4 years that follow. You're kind of baking in Mars in the fourth. I call that the exile transit position. I mean, when you're born with it, like what's his name? The spy who can't get back home, WikiLeaks guy, Julian Assange, Mars in his fourth house. These people often end up exiled, so to speak, or moving far away from where they were born. And so you may also have that essence of having to find a place that's not your natal home, but Venus is bringing it to you in a blessed way. And it's all about money, opportunity, work, and career success for you. Now, here we have Aquarius. I am one of you, sun, moon, and rising. We have this in our fifth house of creativity, romance, sexuality, children, fertility. Can definitely be a good sign for any Aquarians who want to have a baby with their partner or a woman, that you could have that fertility thing really active in the 4 years that follow this June star point. Go back to 2020, because that was also this inception point, but it was difficult. It wasn't as easy, right? Now, you may have had failed romances, challenging romances, challenges with your children, challenges with your creative writing projects or creative art projects, challenges with finding the joy in life since 2020 until 24. But now this is shifting for sure. We have a new reset button. The opportunity ops, Chariklo, spinner of grace and miracles, is you. You are powerful, Pluto. You are creating your own opportunities. You are thriving. You are finding the silver lining and the happiness after times of difficulty. You are creating miracles. You are spinning grace. It's all about what you're up to. And it's flowing to your children, flowing to your love life, flowing to your joy, flowing to your creativity, flowing to your fertility. At the same time, we do see that we get some energy here that suggests that because Venus is flowing to the nodes of fate, there can be some openings for you in that third house, ninth house axis. And so I think this could also expand you in writing projects, communicating, online, social media networks. It can also expand things to do with your neighbor's neighborhood, and maybe a change of a neighborhood of great significance. Now we do see Rahu, Mars can indicate also changing your neighborhood to the maximum, like another country, because Venus rules the house of homeland, and she's in mixed with a sextile to Mars, Rahu, which is very much move thee to a foreign place. Some of you will, some of you won't. If you've been wanting to get some inspirational project off the ground, any creative project off the ground, and you've been delayed or held back, it's time for you to go for it. This is where this thing will work. It will happen. You will feel it happen. And in general, with Jupiter and Venus in the house of money luck, your money luck is increasing, and you're going to have more financial luck, including winning money for some of you, especially with Mercury, Venus here. That's a combination for an opening to a 9-month window of financial luck, basically, and even more so over the 4 years that follow. And when we do this in a deeper dive, if you subscribe to my channel in the end of May, we'll be talking about how to weave Saturn in here and also weave the Etruscan god of wealth into the story as well. We're saving those for a video just about this, not the overview. And finally, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. Here we have a star point happening in your fourth house of home property, land, real estate, homeland, legacy wealth, and family of origin. This is a new beginning. You are starting something fresh. What are you starting? That you may have also tried to start and conceive something now coming to fullness from the star point in 2020. But that star point was square Mars, and it was more difficult. And this one is not. Are your Are your Pisces sun, moon, and rising placements anywhere near 14 degrees of and 15 degrees of Gemini? You're going to feel it more acutely, but all Pisces feel it. It definitely looks like blessings to do with your home. And so you're going to be in the next 10 months after the star point, prosperous, joyful, happy, in great pursuit of pleasure, enjoyment in your home, around your home, connected to your home. Because as well, you will experience this Venus star point connecting to opportunity and ops in the 12th house. Some of you Pisces may be looking at revenue from foreign countries and foreign shores as you create that generational, you generate money from foreign countries and foreign entities. Some of you may also be really healing family ancestral wounds and also past life karmic wounds as you move through this next few months in a very positive and graceful way. Chariklo is about spinning the grace and miracles into the world, and Ops is the opportunity, but time of thrival after a time of difficulty. Because this is also flowing to the North Node, you're going to increase your revenue and you're going to be generating more money over the course of not only the 9.5, 10 months that follow, but the 4 years that follow the star point, relying less on other people's money, inheritance, savings, 401k, and generating a lot more of your own money. I mean, because Pluto in the house of foreign countries and Ops is up there, foreign shores and revenue generated from far off lands, foreign entities, and foreign people, some of you may also be just simply making money from foreign places or foreign countries or foreign shores. And that's why you're expanding so well here. And technically, this can also be something to do with deeper soul work that involves enlightenment. The 12th house is the full liberation, the Buddha energy, the full Monty of awakening, enlightenment. Pluto is that deep transformative power that is flowing to that Mercury that is owning the real estate of this fourth house. So a deep, deep reassembly of yourself, because houses 12, 4, and 8 are all enlightenment-y houses, moksha, spiritual liberation from the matrix. And a lot of you might just be really having a deep spiritual awakening process unfold in the 4 years that follow the Venus star point. Alrighty, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope this has been all useful and helpful. It's at the end of the day now, and the light is coming directly into my window. Recording on December 20th. My Patreon community gets everything early access, ad-free before you do. And if you like that kind of content way ahead of the curve, they're going to get this 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks before you do. Without ads. Come check my Patreon community. I got a special on till the end of January where you can get into my community for a measly $5 if you choose the lowest tier. And then from there, you get 3 free courses, one live with me, a Chiron Life Cycles course in January, which you could get the replay if you missed a class, Chiron Key to Purpose, and Synastry, Are You My Person classes as well. That I've taught already, and you get that content for free, and that's a value of over $100. All you have to invest is a $5 ethical bribe to try me out. And if you don't like it after a month, you don't have to continue your subscription. It's really easy to quit. That I really think you'll like it. So I'm giving people all this ethical lore. So I hope you guys come on in. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And have a wonderful, wonderful 2024. I can't see because of lights in my eyes. Bye all. Oh, don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell.